All right. 大家好. Okay, thank you everybody for joining. Let's see how all the participants coming in. Fantastic. We see the group filling in. Welcome to our BEC Education webinar. We have such an exciting topic here tonight. We will give a couple minutes to let people funnel in. We can see that number rising for participants. So thank you everybody for taking time out of your day. We think the time will be well worth it. Great. We're moving up quite quickly. Very exciting. We have about 40 live streaming now.
Wow.
And that should be increased.
Now I'm getting nervous.
Well, hopefully not too nervous. I know.
No, I'm not too nervous, but.
Good. Okay, fantastic. It looks like things are.
Don't tell me any more about how many people are coming.
Right. Very good. So yeah, it seems things are leveling off. So let's just hop right into it. My name is Jonathan Ginsberg, President of BEC Education, and I'm very happy to have our Director of Education, Peter Alexander, here to talk about a very interesting topic, a topic a lot of people are not aware of, which is IQ enrichment and critical thinking skills. The way we liken it is, test prep. If you are a car, if a student is a car, and test prep is the way to add new tires to the car or to make the car more aerodynamic. So we're improving the car, but what if we could make the engine better? What if we can make you as a student a better critical thinker? What if we can make you a quote unquote smarter student? Then that can really have a tremendous influence on your ability to get good grades in school, to score well, and to be able to think on a deeper level. So this is what we'll let Peter talk about, but it's really some exciting stuff. And we've seen some amazing results with our students. All right, so next slide. So, every time we have a webinar, we have people who know us well, we have new people. So who is BEC? BEC is a group company based here in Silicon Valley in California, and we focus on the long-term development of the student. The long-term development of the student meaning we need to think forward. What is the student trying to achieve? What is their purpose for going to school? What are they trying to do later in life? And if we can help a student better understand themselves and better set their goals for the future, then along the way, we can make sure they get into the best college for them, the best fit, to customize their academic and extracurricular plans to what suits them. And this is why it's so critical that we work as a team with people from different backgrounds to offer a full team experience for each of our students. And in this way, we've seen some fantastic results. And we start with students even in the elementary school for some of our tutoring, but generally from the middle school and above, especially applying from high school to college, these age groups. And we've been very proud of our results. And for those who are attending today, please don't forget, you are eligible for a free IQ assessment and consultation. And this is a tremendous value. This is a $185 value. So this is a serious thing. We really do hope that any of you would contact us. We have students as low as first grade that can train themselves, that can be better, that can be smarter. In fact, the brain is even more malleable, more susceptible to these great advances in potential IQ and intelligence at the younger age group. So we encourage you, please contact us through free consultation, contact us in our WeChat group, contact us via email. We're available in every single method possible. And if you stop right here, make sure to get the IQ assessment. We hope you continue listening, but if you stop right here, make sure to contact us about that, no matter what. And of course, we have our Director of Education, Peter Alexander. I will do the bragging because he will not. Peter is really an authority in the tutoring test prep industry. He is a contributor to College Board, over 20 years of tutoring test prep experience. He's taught at Berkeley. He's researched at Stanford. He's got a bachelor's, master's, and in the PhD program for mathematics in Berkeley. So nobody's a bigger Cal Bear than Peter. And we really, really admire everything he's done with our test prep and tutoring division, from curriculum design to being an academic performance coach himself. Where we think he does a great work with students and great training for our teachers. And hopefully, I think we're going to learn a lot from him tonight. So Peter, please begin.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. That certainly is very flattering, and I hope I can live up to a little bit of that. I do want to point out there that it says University of Berkeley. That down there in my experience, that means University of California at Berkeley. I really appreciate the opportunity to address some of this some of these ideas. I got interested in intelligence enrichment a while ago when I was actually doing some research through the Department of Cognitive Sciences at UC Berkeley in conjunction with the Distributed Learning Workshop, and we actually that's where I did a lot of my contribution to SAT. And it became clear that many of these tests that we're going to be talking about tonight really are related to language and the way that people are able to use language and how effective they are at using language. And so some of these ideas really can be taught. And I got very interested in learning about and putting together means of helping students improve their cognitive abilities, and those wind up having the effect on standardized tests and intelligence tests of improved performance. And so I'm excited to be able to talk about this tonight.
Great. We're very excited as well. And, just before we hop into the nitty gritty, we just want to let everybody know that at BEC in our Division BEC prep focusing on tutoring and test prep, that we focus purely on having very professional credentialed instructors. We want real teachers doing real work, and we're very proud of our proprietary online platform, especially now because everything must be online. We have fantastic sign-up process and resources, all built for online. And this all goes toward our data-driven methods and feedback, in that we want to have the best teachers, but even the best teachers need tools, and these tools are backed by data of hundreds of students, even into the thousands, and this can also guide a lot of our instruction. And we're covering all the tests from SAT, ACT, TOEFL, IELTS, graduate school tests, GRE, GMAT, and of course the full Common Core. So yes, Peter.
Yeah, I wanted to add too. I don't think we have it listed, but we also do competition mathematics training,
Absolutely.
competition physics training.
Right.
And of course, we have a full spectrum of AP courses that we do previews for, and we help students prepare for the AP tests as well.
And AMC 10 and AIME, so many.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, and I wanted to just underscore what you said, that at this time, so many people are going online. We have prepared since about 2015, 2016, our platform to handle the online experience. And so we've always designed it with this in mind. We're not just making a default move now because of the COVID-19 situation. We've always prepared to actually do this. And the other thing is we are not a gig supporter. We're not like Uber of education here. We really do. We hire professional credentialed instructors to work on specific areas that they would normally be teaching and that they're responsible for in school.
Absolutely. All right, great. Next.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that this will be, I intend that this will be sort of the first in a series of discussions that we can have that focus on this whole issue of thinking and learning. I mentioned a while ago, I got interested in this subject a while back. And the focus of these discussions is going to be on issues that are related to lifelong learning, education, intelligence and problem solving, and largely the way all of these things are related to language. Studies have shown that there is an intrinsic connection between all of these areas and people's effectiveness with language, not just with the English language, but languages like computer languages. Some people regard mathematics as a language. So it's actually proficiency in language which really has a way of unifying and developing, helping us develop fluency and efficiency in all of these different areas. Okay, so we can go on next, So tonight's topic, I'm going to talk about these main three areas, and that is problem solving, language, and its role in intelligence. One of the things that as a test prep organization, as an academic coaching organization, We want to take on this whole idea of helping people actually solve problems better and function better in test-taking situations. And that is something that, that a lot of organizations steer away from. It is challenging. I want to talk about the main ingredients, both what makes it challenging and the way that we have, the programs that we are putting together that can help overcome some of those challenges. It's important to understand how these three areas, oh no, you can back up one sec. Yeah.
This one?
No, back up to the first step. Yeah. How these areas are related. Essentially, what distinguishes humans from other animals is that we use our intelligence in the problem-solving process. Okay, that's an easy realization. What's a little what goes a little bit further is the idea that what distinguishes good problem solvers among humans is those humans who use language to represent knowledge. And so what I'm going to try and focus on is the whole idea of how language is used to represent knowledge and how it helps us increase our ability to perform under high pressure situations, and how it actually can increase our intelligence.
All right, let's see.
And feel free to chime in with any questions, put them in the chat. Jonathan will see him, he'll interrupt me. And
yes, please,
whatever.
Anybody, at any point, please ask questions, definitely. Take advantage of
it. Yeah. So before we can talk about this, before I can really communicate some of the ideas that go into our programs, I have to talk to you a little bit about some concepts that come up here. There's basically different types of intelligence. There's different types of learning, and how language figures into this, and then a little bit about what the problem solving process is about. So we're going to be focusing on that. So a basic idea of each of these is really important. So you'll find discussions of these kinds of ideas and the terms on social media sites and in the media, and so I just want to help you understand a little bit about that. So you can go on to the next slide, Jonathan. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to focus on is the idea of types of intelligence. Okay, so cognitive scientists and people in psychology have identified two distinct but very related kinds of intelligence. The first one is what's called crystalline intelligence. I'm going to take off the, I'm going to get the highlighter here just a second, Jonathan, so I can, okay. My little arrow here. Okay, can you guys see this here where I'm pointing? Can you see the pointer there?
Maybe not, but you're looking to point at the crystalline.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm supposed to be getting a. It's not right there. It is.
All right.
There it is. Right.
Not
okay.
Beautiful.
So crystalline. Thank you. Crystalline intelligence. Right. So it comes from the idea of crystals. And what are crystals? Crystals are fixed. Crystals are solid. They're rigid. They're static. They're not moving. This has to do with fixed facts, rules. It's things like how you drive your car, how you tie your shoes. These are fixed chunks of information that are there in your head. And that's a very important aspect of our intelligence because it sort of helps us get through our regular day. Fixed areas of language go into crystalline. Words, for example, and their definitions, associating words with definitions. The other kind of intelligence that they've identified is called fluid. And if you think about fluid, fluid is flowing, it changes, it's dynamic, it's updatable, it's not fixed. And it turns out that this sort of intelligence is the kind of intelligence that you use when you get ideas, when something comes to you, when an idea comes to you, and how to solve a problem when it just sort of appears there. Also, sometimes the fluid intelligence is used when you remember someone's name after you haven't thought of it for a while, and it just sort of comes to you. So it's related to insights, it's related to decision making. They interact with each other. The crystalline intelligence is accessed by the fluid intelligence, and there's a mutually reciprocal relationship between the two. And so each of these types of intelligence uses different kinds of memory which are related. And this is very important for teaching people how to improve our thinking skills, understanding how to develop both of these types of intelligence. We can move on to the next slide, Jonathan. So scientists often use analogies. Oh, good, my highlighter is still there. Analogies to help us understand these concepts. And so the analogy I think that is most useful right here is the idea of a computer model for your brain and intelligence. And so the idea is you can think of your intelligence like you would the operating system in a computer. So you can think of it as Windows 10 or your Mac operating system, and the operating system kind of runs the show, okay? And so in this way, your brain is kind of like the processor. The brain itself is like the processor, and the intelligence, okay, that is kind of like the operating system. So the brain is like the hardware, and then what gets used is your intelligence in the form of kind of like an operating system.
Right. Well, I think you know, we have a lot of information. It gets a little bit technical, but I think it's broken down very well. But it's very critical for a lot of students. You know, we view intelligence purely as facts that you absorb. Right. I know more today than I knew yesterday. But in fact, I think what you're getting at, and what will be expounded upon, is the fact that your ability to learn can improve, rather than what you've learned. I think that's so critical that people forget about that.
That's
to be able to train the ability to learn.
That's exactly right. And we're going to see that in the next slide, how that comes up. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Relating to the idea of your ability to learn. So the crystalline intelligence, that's kind of like your hard drive. Once you get new information, it'll be first stored in your RAM, okay, but eventually it'll make its way to the hard drive, your long-term memory, where it will be stored as crystalline intelligence. And what you were just getting at, Jonathan, was the idea of, well, what's the role of the fluid intelligence? And that's where you begin to learn new things. That's how you begin to acquire new information. That's called your short-term, or what's called your working memory. Now, the amount of space, just like in a computer, the amount of space you have, the RAM, has to do with how much information you can take in at once.
Right.
And understanding both of these areas is very important for how we learn and how we can increase the efficiency in the way we learn.
Right. Okay. I think we're all ready to learn now. We're all ready to do it.
Good. Okay, so we've got the two ideas, crystalline and fluid. And what we're going to be focusing on here largely is the fluid intelligence.
Would you like me to jump to fluid?
No, that's okay. Let me just mention this. So some of the things, it's not like the long-term memory, the crystalline intelligence isn't important. Some of the things that you can do to improve that has to do with memorization, things that you have to practice, learning to play an instrument. The way that you actually increase and stretch your learning ability has to do with what happens next. Let's go to the next slide.
Sure.
And this is working with the fluid intelligence. And there are brain stretching tasks that that you've probably all seen: solving puzzles, playing chess, composing music, writing poetry, learning a new language. Right now, during COVID-19, this is a great opportunity to do things, and many students are learning new languages, learning the computer language.
Absolutely.
All of these are brain stretching tasks. Also, it's important to remember that there are people that capitalize on this, and you'll see on the internet all sorts of toys that are available in the form of brain exercises, Lumosity.
Yes.
And while there might be some benefit to that, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about that. You have to be very careful about the limitations about what they can do. So these are all good things that you can be doing. They help they will help improve your short-term memory and your fluid intelligence.
Right.
But there's more. There's a lot more that that some of these things that you find online really don't quite get.
Right. Well, I think that's a really critical point. We're flooded with tools on the internet now. If you want to Google something, you can find something for that need, whatever it is. If you want to say, how do I get smarter? How do I improve my IQ? This and that. You will receive a whole list of potential tools. But are they really what you should be spending your time on? To do any of this work is going to take hours of commitment. You know, we say, you know.
Yeah, and the one thing we really have to be careful of is because there are people that will try and tell you that video games will help you. And really, we really have to put the brakes on. Video games are fun, video games are engaging, but video games are not about.
And I think video games expands into just games. You know, there's a lot of brain training games that sound exciting, they sound fun, but maybe don't do the job in a systematic and effective way.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons why this whole industry has in many ways gotten a bad rap.
Yeah.
Is because it's been invaded by a lot of people who are essentially selling video games, and they're trying to market as brain games, brain stretching exercises.
They get a lot of users, but maybe not much results. Yeah.
They do. And, you know, like I think $10 a month and you get subscriptions to these sites. And well, so we'll have a little bit more to say. Let's move on, Jonathan.
Okay.
That's absolutely right, though. Okay, so let's talk about if we're really going to focus on how to enrich our learning capacities. What does it really look like? What does it really take? And what I call this here, you know, if you want to highlight that, Jonathan, good brain hygiene. What is it?
Yes, okay. let me get the highlighter on that one.
Sure. So these are the three, I guess, ingredients.
Oh, that's not a highlighter.
You just
said it was spotlighted. Oh man. Anyway, you can see.
Yeah. So
good brain hygiene.
Yeah, good brain hygiene. These are what I would call the three components of good brain hygiene, and this is what it's these three programs these three areas that our programs are centered on, and we'll see some case studies about students that have focused on these three areas and really derived a lot of interesting benefits.
All right.
So the first one is it's a software application, but it's not a toy. It's called the Dual NBAC brain training exercise.
Yes.
And it's a piece of software, and it's actually freely available. It's available or at low cost. But what's very important is that when you start using it, you use it with people that understand how to make use of it. Okay, that's one of the
proper administration.
So yes, go back one sec. Let me focus back. Okay, so that's one aspect, and it's only 1/3. The other two areas are the one-to-one coaching. Where we actually work together, one-on-one, we meet and we work on things like nonverbal problem-solving skills, exercises that help train us in cognitive skills and help enrich our cognitive skills. And then the last one that I think is also extremely important, and that's a portfolio project. Students should always have some form of project that they're working on that draws all of these ideas together.
Right.
A little bit more
I think that's a very good point. A couple of things. One being that, you know, this idea of training yourself to be better or to maximize your potential. There's this idea that intelligence is innate. It's natural. It is what it is. But we look at any quote unquote genius, and besides innate talent, they all have one commonality. That is a tremendous mentor and tremendous practice. Mozart, you know, you could say was a tremendous talent, but he was also trained since 3 years old. his father was a musician. So genius is also raised. So it's about, how can we get us up to whatever that potential is? Not to say that, oh, what I am today is what I only can be. And so I think that's great. And also, just for everybody listening, this idea that everybody's always, well, what's the result of this? Even if my IQ goes up, what does that mean? Okay, my grades go up, what does that mean? This idea that even in the extracurricular portion of a student's life and their activities, these skills can be trained very well in the proper project. And that's when everything comes together, from our academic planning to our extracurricular planning. And this is a really critical component. So I just wanted to mention.
Oh, absolutely. And the whole idea of having a project, like it might be composing a piece of literature.
Right.
It might be reading through a series of 5 novels that are really hard and writing a report about it. It might be, coming up or mastering a piece of music and so on. Developing conversational skills in a language, learning a new computer language, writing a complex computer program. All of these serve to bring all of this training together as one solid, and it helps all of us understand how it comes together and how it's not just, these aren't just little unrelated parts. Okay, let's go on to the next.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I want to talk first of all about how does this work. I mentioned this idea of the dual NBAC.
Yeah. And
it's a piece of software, and the way it works is, I'll describe it a little bit. The student receives 2 input streams. One of them comes verbally through the headset. We recommend that they use a headset, and the other comes visually on the screen.
Right.
And what the student will hear is either a letter, or in this example here, it's colors. You'll hear red, then black, blue, white. And so the voice will be saying that, and simultaneously there'll be a little square which appears in one of these 9 spaces on that grid. And
I would say, Peter, sorry, before going too much for this test, if for those who know it, maybe they already know, but this is a controversial test.
Yes, it is. It's controversial because some people have said that it doesn't necessarily help improve intelligence. Other people claim that it really has helped improve intelligence, and really what studies have shown is it's totally related to who is taking the test and what kinds of dual NBAC exercises were they doing.
Right.
Okay.
So the way you're guided through the NBAC, it can be a critical tool or it can be a less critical tool.
That's right. So I have down here Blacker did a report from a Johns Hopkins study where they talk about the dual NBAC exercise. Essentially, there's 2 stimuluses that are coming in, and the student is responsible for tracking either 1 back, 2 back, 3 back. I don't think that humans have gotten more than 5 or 6 back. But the idea is that the more farther back you're able to see and remember, the stronger and the bigger the larger space your working memory has to accumulate and to take in information.
I understand.
So let's go into the second. I think that was a great question. The results of that study showed that the students that were actually using the right dual NBAC tools, that means the stuff that was not toys that were sold on the internet as games, they actually had up to 30% stronger working memory, as was evidenced on the electroencephalograms that they were tested with right after the training exercises.
Very significant.
So, 30% is up to 30% increase in the power and the strength of the working memory over the control groups.
Wow.
So again, this was a Johns Hopkins study back in 2017, so it wasn't too long ago.
My alma mater. Anyway.
Oh, really?
Doing good work.
Yeah. I learned something new about you every day. Great.
Very good.
Wow. Okay.
Great. Okay.
So let's go on to the next one. Okay. Now the other one I mentioned was enrichment, cognitive enrichment training activities. This is one of the exercises that we teach students about. So the first thing that comes to you as the problem is, we have to state the problem. Find which of these answer choices here best fit in the box here. Okay, so there is a pattern going from from left to right as I start with this figure, and then I go to this figure, and then I look at this figure, and then I look at this figure. And if you guys want to enter in which one you think the answer is into the chat or whatever, you can try right now.
Yeah, if anybody has an answer, please, if you dare to answer. All right.
Which one we have one guess. Okay.
We have one. Okay, we have one for A. Okay, and anyone else? We'll give it a minute. Give it a 10, 9, 8.
So we got two.
We have a couple more coming in. Okay, we have a few. Okay, everyone seems quite we have a bunch of A's and B. All right, well, let's see what is gonna go on. All right.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna choose E here, Jonathan.
You're gonna choose E.
I'm gonna choose E.
We don't have one E in the chat. So what do you know that other people don't know?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Why don't you?
Okay, let's see. Maybe.
Let's go to the next slide here. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
I was wrong. Right, that's correct. The answer choice is A. Okay.
Oh, you got me. I thought maybe I missed something. Maybe it was Z, right?
No, the answer choice is A. Now, the important thing, getting at language, and this is one of the things that we do. Of all of you who selected A, who could have described clearly and succinctly why A was the answer? You see right here that what we have here. The right box has the pieces outside the square folded into the square. The figure is then rotated clockwise by 90 degrees. Okay, so what we see the language which describes why A is the answer. This is one of the things that we at BEEC in our program really focus on, is not just the answer, but why that is the solution to the problem. When I talk about cognitive enrichment training, it's supplying students with the skills to not only understand what the answer is, but why the answer that they provide is the solution to the problem. Very important and often missed aspect of this kind of training. Let's go on to the next little example that I have here.
Sure. Okay, what's the next word? Okay, I'll do some group interactions. Okay,
oh,
very
cool.
good. Keep
All
going.
right.
Yeah,
All right.
Everyone's doing great.
Okay, so here we have another one, and this one I think is a little bit tougher. This is a little bit more busy, but it involves the same kinds of ideas. And again, what we focus on here is which of these answer choices is the one that should be the replacement.
Right.
For D. I'm imagining that we should be getting more choices. What did we see coming up there, Jonathan?
All right, let's see. What does everybody think on this one? Oh, okay. We have some people coming in. We have a couple of 4s coming in. What does everybody think? Is 4 the popular answer? Perhaps, yeah. 4 seems to be the predominant answer here.
Okay, you guys are all pretty intelligent.
Everyone's pretty smart right now. This is a smart group.
This is a smart group.
This is a smart group.
Okay, but again, let's back up just 1 second. Okay, yeah. Again, all right. A good test is, how would you describe? 4 is the right answer. I will tell you. 4 is the right answer. But how? I'll leave this as an exercise to you. Maybe we can talk about it later, or you can write us or whatever. How would you describe why 4 is the right answer? What language would you use? Do you have the language? Yesterday, I was just working with a student, and we worked through some exercises like this, and what kept coming up was just the grasping and just not having the language to describe, even though they did have And we'll see why that's important as
I
we
think
move on.
that's something that is really critical. A lot of students take it for granted. You know the answer. Why? Well, I just do. I can sense it. I can see it, but they can't necessarily pinpoint it. And we see it a lot with even students' interests. They say, well, I like to do this. Well, why? Well, they never thought about why. They never really taken that kind of introspective leap. And especially even on an intelligence side, they've never taken that leap to be explaining it. So yeah, that's very critical.
So I have someone answering, you rotate the object 90 degrees counterclockwise and you blank out the, right, the upper triangle. That's right. That's right. The upper triangle. Okay. And one thing, the arrow is pointing to the blanked. Okay. The arrow is pointing to the blanked. And
Right.
that's an important differentiation. The arrow is pointing to the blanked. Also allows us to eliminate answer choice 2 at least. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next slide there. So this is the idea that we had mentioned a little bit before, the idea of a signature project.
Right.
And I've worked with students who literally have put together complex computer programs as signature projects. They have both learned a new programming language and developed a significant software application or apps that have been deployed on cell phones.
Yes.
And as part of a long-term project that brings together where they have to do lots of problem solving. They have to apply a lot of what they're learning routinely in the course of the development of a project.
Sure.
When it comes to music, students take on, I'm going to play a Bach sonata in A minor. I am going to learn a Beethoven piano concerto or something like that, something that's very challenging relative to where they're at.
Sure. I just wanted to state to everybody, we've seen a couple of hands go up. The hand function, please feel free, send something into the chat and I'll make sure we address that question. Don't worry about, raising the hand. You can raise the hand, but definitely shoot the question into the chat, and then we can get that question. Okay, yeah, continue.
Sure, yeah, and as those questions come up, Jonathan, just let me know and I could address some of those as we go.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the next slide.
Sure.
So this is sort of a summary of what it is that we're trying to do with our programs. The idea comes from the systems thinking. We as problem solvers, using language, we think in terms of systems. We see our observable world, but most of what happens is in the form of hazy shapes and patterns underneath the visible and then hidden structures. What we're trying to do is help bring these hidden structures up to the observable world. Once they're observable, we can use them to go back and understand the more hidden structures. And it turns out to be a sort of a feedback relationship. We'll see a little bit more of that. That feedback relationship strengthens the knowledge building ability of the student or whoever it is that's doing this. This is not just for students, this is for everybody who's interested in increasing their learning skills and their performances.
Yeah, we would say really just for them to really optimize or fulfill or realize that potential, that if you can only focus on the observable, well, then you're actually missing this whole big part of your brain, this whole big part of what you can train to improve your critical thinking and problem solving skills.
And that's exactly right, Jonathan. And what happens is if all you're doing is focusing on the observable world, we'll see this a little bit later, you're not enriching your knowledge, your overall knowledge, okay? That's the idea.
All right.
So let's talk about so here's what I was sort of getting at here. Ability itself is not knowledge. Knowledge can only be communicated through language, and language is the only way to actual knowledge. It's the only way we get the stuff from the hidden below up to the visible into the scene.
Wow.
Let's go on.
I think that's pretty powerful, people. It's big stuff. Yeah, let's continue.
So let's take a couple of case studies. These are
Right.
students that I just have recently been working with over the last 2-3 years. The first was a 5th grader that I started working with, I think back in 2016.
Yeah. Very strong
And
student. Yeah, very
very
good.
strong, and she was planning on coming from China to the United States, and she wanted to transfer into a um, a school here in the United States. She wanted to transfer into the 6th grade. And her initial Wechsler 4 score, the Wechsler is a scale for uh, children's intelligence.
Right.
Her score was 117 initially, and her initial SSAT on the middle section of that exam, that was 1690. Let me say a little bit. So a little bit about what that means. 130 on the Wechsler is considered to be gifted. And then you have these higher classifications. And then for the SAT middle test, that's given for 5th graders through 7th graders. About a midpoint is 1725. So this student was a little bit below average. Okay, and a lot of this had to do with language issues.
Right.
But not all. A lot of it had to do with problem-solving skills and cognitive skills. So my program for her was the dual NBAC, and she did that for about 20 minutes a day, 4 days a week. And then we met for about 45 minutes twice a week, focusing on cognitive skills training, the language associated with problem solving, developing that. And she took on at least 1 or 2 big signature training projects. One was she was going to read through all of Chronicles of Narnia and give public reports to her classmates on this, and she wound up getting through all of those. Anyway, so that was her signature project.
Right.
If you can go to the next slide there.
Before we get to the next slide, how long did this program go for, roughly? How many months?
So I think I listed that in the next. So it was roughly, let me see. It was roughly about. So it was around before 5th grade until a mid 6th grade, but then so it was about 14 months in total. Right. They took a few breaks for holiday and so on, and there were a couple of times when they took some breaks. But I would say she was at this more or less for about this program for about 14 months.
So 14 months later, so we had the 117 Wechsler, the 1690 SSAT. 14 months later, what do we see?
So she had a successful transfer to a competitive Bay Area junior high in the spring of the 6th grade. So it was a mid-year transfer. Yeah. And her WISC score was 132, which was well in the gifted range. And her SAT final middle score was in the 99 percentile, which was 2127. And by the time she came over here, because I had been working with her on her fluency skills, she actually sounded with a lot like my vocal inflections. You could not tell that she
Meaning she speaks very, very well.
Well, thank you. Literally when I would talk to her on the phone, I could not believe that this person was coming from China.
Now she's really a fantastic student, and I think this is so empowering because there's a big misconception, or there's this word gifted, and I know when you're in elementary school, gifted means you're born that way. That's the belief. That's the assumption. Well, I'm gifted, you're not. This is life, right? Well, you can be trained to be gifted. Many students can get to that level. They just maybe don't realize it or know it or have the tools or have the proper teacher and mentor. So, there's just, especially for the younger students, who sometimes really feel there's this great divide between me and them, or I'm not like that, or they're not like me. This shows people a very clear example of a young student who went from quote unquote not gifted to now in that special category. In reality, they always were gifted. They just needed the proper training.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, I think that had she had more time, she could have improved a lot more than that, because some of the areas, her sub-scores that contributed uh, to this score of 132,
Yeah,
she could have gotten higher even,
sure.
but there were elements of that test that are very much culturally biased,
Right.
and had she been trained to work around that, she could have even scored higher than that.
Sure.
So it just goes to show how much a lot of these tests depend upon factors that we really can improve upon and we can control for.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next the
Sure.
next person. So this person, I'm calling him Leonard. Leonard came to me 2017, I believe.
Right.
He was diagnosed with clinical ADHD. He was a junior in high school. He was facing an early dismissal from an East Coast boarding school for behavior problems.
Mm.
His SAT score at that time was 1120, which was actually about 100 points less than the average Asian performance in the state of California. He was also trying to take the math SAT subject test, and his score on that was about 560.
Sure.
His goal was he wanted to regain his status with the boarding school, and he wanted to transfer into an athletic scholarship program.
Right.
That had he was a lacrosse player. He wanted to, so he had some real ambitions that he still wanted to pursue.
Right.
So why don't we go to the next? So my treatment was the dual and back again, 30 minutes per day, 4 times a week.
Mm.
Cognitive skills, I worked on him on these with him 3 times a week, about an hour a day.
Yeah.
SAT training, we worked very intensely for about 6 weeks right before the program, for about 2 hours per day. And then SAT math subject, we worked on that for about 6 months or so, hourly, weekly for about an hour. His results were, he got 1510 on the SAT.
Wow.
Maximum is 1600.
Right.
SAT subject, maximum is 800. He got 750. He was fully reinstated in the boarding program and in the boarding school that he had been suspended from. And he wound up getting a scholarship to a very prestigious Florida school that specializes in lacrosse.
Yeah, no, this is, I mean, this is tremendous, because we're looking back at in 1120, and you know, most situations you would assume, well, you know, it is what it is. You know, they're so far beyond what you know, probably that hopeful 1400 plus 1500 plus score. But, you know, between the combination of the SAT training, which is essential, proper SAT, plus the cognitive skills training, you know, we see a whole shift and change in the students' abilities. You know, so this is, you know, gives some of our students a lot of hope, and it should. And of course, for our students who are already scoring very highly, well, you know, the idea is, you know, these cognitive skills training can only unleash a greater potential.
Yeah. Let me say a little bit more about that, Jonathan. The reason why so some people might, the mom even wondered, why this dual end back?
Yeah.
And I actually had the fortunate experience of talking with his psychologist, and she said that this was a great idea if we could do it, and I would monitor his performance with that. Because what this did is this increased his ability to focus. This increased his ability to concentrate on the subjects at hand. And it really increased his ability to stay concentrated, stay focused on what he was actually doing. And so that enabled him to train for the SAT more effectively, and it enabled him to perform on the SAT ultimately, I think, more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Okay, so yeah, let's move on to the next. And again, so this, I just want to reaffirm, it's that whole theme of taking what is hidden, what is, we know stuff is going on below the surface, bringing it up to the visible, and the role of language is crucial in that process. Let's go to the next slide.
Sure. All right, some more fun examples.
Yeah, we can work through this. So the idea, let me just sort of to emphasize, here's another little example. And which of the
Sorry,
following?
quick question.
Yeah.
There wasn't someone in the audience named attend, but asking, how is that student doing now in school?
Oh, he's thriving. He's doing which
Thriving.
one?
Oh, let's say the second one. I
The
can
second,
speak to the first one.
he's doing wonderful. Unfortunately, from what I understand from the mom, they're very, very disappointed because of the COVID thing. They can't play. This is an athlete.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now, but he was doing wonderfully. He got accepted into the school, and he was probably one of the best lacrosse players on the team right now.
Yeah, this is a student, he's really, been doing very well. Obviously disappointed with the lacrosse aspect, but performing very well in college. And this is another key, that these skills take you into college. These skills take you throughout your whole life. So if you're able to build up these cognitive skills, they don't go away. SAT prep, yes, it's important, but it can go, it goes away. Don't take the SAT again. But these cognitive skills stay with you for your whole life. So we're always very proud to kind of see this continued success, especially once a student gets into the school, after they get into the school.
I just saw a question appear there. Is he still practicing? That's a good question. Okay. Because these are not video games, because these are not immediately thrills, because they are hard, a lot of students, once they get the drive, the benefit, they don't practice. So I think that Leonard decided that he wanted to focus his practice skills more on lacrosse. So some students do go on to continue practicing this because it is, some enjoy it, others really find it very, some react, well, once I'm done with the violin and I no longer have to practice, that's it. I'm not going to play it anymore. Others love it and they keep practicing it.
Right.
So
we will say this training is training. It is not easy. It is not an app you download for fun. It can be slightly a game, but it's definitely a serious stuff that requires, a good coach, good academic mentor.
Before when I was training, I'm a runner, and when I was training to improve my my speed, I ran intervals. And I was able to get my speed down to around 5.5 minute miles.
Yeah.
If I stopped the training, the interval training, I can't run a 5.5 minute mile anymore.
Sure.
I'd be lucky to do an 8-minute mile. So it's the same kind of thing here. If you do stop the training for a while, it doesn't mean that the strength of your mind goes away, but the sharpness and the alacrity with which you're able to respond to problem-solving challenges might be diminished a little bit. You'll find that many people, as they get older, they start doing this again because it keeps their minds sharp, and it's a way of sharpening them up and keeping their thinking skills up. Anyway, if you want to, who wants to try this last thing?
I think this one I can do.
I think everybody can probably, but again, the important, we can go to the next slide there. So the answer is 32. The question is, did you get that through knowledge or did you get that through ability? So if it's through knowledge, then you can explain explicitly, completely, without too many words, without using and it's kind of like you'll be able to tell me what the pattern is.
Sure.
And so let's go to the next slide. So abilities, I can't exactly say why, it just sort of fits. And these are common student responses. That's where I got some of this idea here. So an example of a true solution would be 32 fits the pattern since it doubles the previous number. And if you double it, you get the next number. That's sort of the pattern. Doubling is the pattern. Okay.
Sure.
So the second is what I would say is knowledge, because it explains why 32 must be the answer. So let's move on, Jonathan. I think we're about to the again. Emphasizing from this one, it's the words. In the words is the knowledge. So it's in the words that we actually get the knowledge. And if we can go on to the next slide, Jonathan.
Sure.
So basically, the scientific method is what we're getting at here. We state the problem, we consider the information that we're given, we try and draw conclusions, and then we try to provide a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And the solution has to come in the form of just solving the problem yourself. Doesn't do you, it'll do you some good, but unless you can communicate that to other people, you can't communicate that you've solved the problem. Let's go on to the next slide, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So in the industry, for example, I try and keep coming back to this. If you've solved a problem for your supervisor, you still have to explain to them that what you did was the solution to the problem that was presented to you. If you were assigned the task of balancing the budget, you can go and balance the budget and it'll be fine. But if you can't prove to your supervisor or to your peers that that's in fact what you did, if you can't access the language that succinctly can explain to them that that's what you did, it doesn't do anybody any good.
Well, this is critical. The communication, we can never forget it. And it's interesting that even in terms of this concept of knowledge, that the communication actually begins from that concept rather than from that kind of final step of person to person. It really comes from your ability to even understand what you've done.
That's exactly right, Jonathan. Yeah, and I think let's go to the next slide here.
Sure.
The idea, I think we can actually skip over this. I think we just
no problem.
This
no
one.
Problem.
So the idea is you start with natural ability. You see patterns. You may or you may not be able to convert this to knowledge. Okay. If you can, then it goes into your crystalline intelligence. So you can use your fluid intelligence. You can strengthen your fluid intelligence to solve the problem. But unless it can be translated into your crystalline intelligence, it can't become accessible knowledge for you. So let's go to the next slide there. I think this is the cycle I kind of want to emphasize. So the problem comes to you, you formulate a solution. If you can associate language to that, this is the key element here, then it becomes knowledge, and this is what strengthens your ability to solve further problems in this feedback loop. And at the heart of our program is helping students develop this cyclic reinforcement loop where they solve increasingly difficult problems and translate their experience into knowledge.
Right.
Okay, and the result is excitement about the learning process. Now what happens, that's good, go on to the next slide. What happens if you don't do that? That whole lower area is missing. It just goes from problem to solution, and what often happens is you get stuck at one level of kinds of problems that you can solve, and you can't move on to the next level.
Understand.
You hit a plateau, and what do? There is no interval training. In order to increase your speed, you've got to have some kind of thing that you do. In order to increase your ability to play the violin, you've got to have some kind of things that you're trained on with scales. It's not going to happen for you any other way. What happens when students don't have that? They don't have the experience of increasing their knowledge, and it's kind of not fun and it's boring.
All right. And I would say absolutely agree. Fantastic. Continue.
So anyway, I just wanted to say that it's not just math problems. It's not just science problems. This actually has to do with problems that come up both in our relationships. This happens with problems that we have negotiating areas of life, learning how to use new software. Applying for jobs, learning what the government requires from you when you need to start, taxes are coming up, I guess they've suspended that. So there's many problem solving situations which come to us every day outside of school, and formulating language and learning how this all works is crucial to all of those areas.
Well, absolutely. And I love it that, once again, where is all of this training going toward? Now, okay, yes, will it also make you a better student? Yes. Will it also help your grades? Yes. Will it help your test scores? Yes. But it will also help you in your communication as a person, which affects every aspect of your life. So it's really such a powerful tool. Really, if you're a car, let's get the engine better. If we can do that, the whole rest of every aspect is going to be stronger, going to go farther, going to go faster with more efficiency. This is such a powerful tool. Yeah. Great.
Great. I think that's the last one that I had. Was there anything?
Oh, sure. No, so Peter, thank you so much. I think we all learned a lot tonight, and it's such a powerful tool. We hope everybody tonight will contact us, get your free IQ test assessment, and then we'll provide that great consultation and see how we can help you reach your learning goals, reach your personal goals. We're going to have more of these talks, and of course, for our students who are middle school applying for high school applying for college applying for master's program, we have our yearly mentor consulting where we intend to really support the total growth of the student. We have our curriculum test program. We have our application service. So if you have any of questions in any of these areas, of course, please do contact us. If you don't believe what we say, please find us on Yelp, and you will see some great feedback we've had. We maintain a 5-star ranking status, so we're happy to maintain that. And please do contact us for that free assessment and consultation. We have QR code to scan if you're in the group. Please, we're getting questions about what do we charge. Please contact us. We'll give the full information. We're going to release some promo information in the group too. So everybody on this call, you're getting the free assessment consultation. We're giving a big 20% discount. Everybody's at home. There's a lot that can be done while people are at home. And even when you're back to school, well, there's a lot that can be done.
Yeah, Jonathan, I wanted to mention a lot of students. I was just speaking with some people yesterday. And this is a time when a lot of students really are capitalizing on the extra study time. They are preparing for tests. It's not going to be surprising if the overall scores now, when the tests on SAT, ACT are probably going to be seeing higher curves overall.
Yes,
so this
absolutely.
This is a great time to join in on the opportunity and take advantage of this opportunity to prepare and to really increase your study skills and to sharpen those.
All right, fantastic. I think thank you everybody for joining tonight. And we're just hitting that hour-long mark. And any questions, though, please send them now before it's too late. And of course, you can send them later, but might as well while we're here. Any further questions for me or for Peter, please. We'll give everybody a few more minutes, perhaps. Sure. We have a question. How did you come up with this system? Do you want to speak more toward the system, Peter? You are the
Sure. Yeah. Well, there were a number of facts. It's hard to give a short answer to that. But basically, I worked with the Cognitive Sciences Department at UC Berkeley that was in conjunction with a group that did work with a consortium in the Midwest called the Distributed Learning Workshop. And there were many different types of studies that they were doing that I was part of. I realized that there were various types of tools that they were using, helping students. Some did work and others didn't work. I saw some of the ones, the dual end-back, for example, tool that actually was very successful. And then just trying different things out with my own students. And then you have to remember, I was part of a group that was implementing some of these research studies. And so I saw some of these methods being brought together as part of research programs. And I saw how effective some of these programs could be.
All right, very good. And we'll give it one more opportunity. Any questions from the audience? We really, appreciate everybody joining tonight. We hope you take advantage of the offer we have. And we hope to be working with many of you. The students online, fantastic. The parents online, we hope to be working with your students. All right, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you to our audience. And I guess we will call it a night. Okay, thank you, guys.
All right, good night. Take care.
Good night.
All right.